Every legend starts somewhere. Not in the spotlight, but in the work. One swing, one pitch, one moment at a time. It starts here. Bus rides, long days, late nights. Dialing in your swing, leveling up your look. Chasing your first, hey, that kid's special. Then, it clicks. You're locked in. Every swing smoother, every pitch nastier, every moment straight heat.
Big moment for the closer. He delivers. Got him swinging.
Okay, now you're repping your country. Different pressure, different pride. This is the world stage. Or maybe your journey takes you upstairs, flipping prospects, stacking lineups, building a ball club your way. Getting to the majors? That's just the beginning. Cooperstown is the goal. But you gotta earn it. It's your journey, your moment, your show. Make your mark. Become a legend.
Beyond the Diamond, how MLB The Show is redefining sports storytelling. Please welcome Peter Banks of Major League Baseball, Ramone Russell of San Diego Studio, and our moderator, Jason Wilson of Sports Business Journal.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jason Wilson from Sports Business Journal. If we could introduce ourselves.
Hey, I'm Peter Banks from Major League Baseball.
And I'm Ramone Russell from the San Diego Studio.
And we're going to be talking some baseball, not the song, but about the game today. So first, one of the things about MLB The Show is that it's kind of one of those games that shows how you can mix all the different forms of gaming that people like nowadays. Online gaming against your friends. You can play your own RPG mode with Road to the Show. You can manage things the way you like. Throw in some strategy there when you're building your team in the franchise modes. But how do you guys play?
I play the same way everybody else plays. It depends on the day. If my friends are off, maybe I'm playing some co-op in Diamond Dynasty, or maybe I just want to become the next Aaron Judge because I can't do it in real life, so I can do that in the video game. So it all depends.
Yeah, I've got 3 kids at home, so I play what they want to play when they're ready to play it, and then when I can squeeze...
I know how that is.
Squeeze in, honestly, exhibition games these days. As I was saying, I have a very sad franchise that just is kind of stuck in the early season.
That's why I don't play franchise. I either play against my brother, which is great because we live 50 miles away. I don't get to see him very often, so that's a great way for us to reconnect. And that's one of the nice things about multiplayer gaming. But, at home, I play Road to the Show, and that's the mode I always play exclusively for MLB The Show because it gives me a chance to play it on my terms, the way I like to play it, at the pace I like to play it, whenever my boys are playing Helldivers.
There you go.
But one thing that I did notice this year that, it's really tied into it is, there's more of a cultural component with the way you've treated the World Baseball Classic this year. New teams, new federations, new locales. How does the World Baseball Classic factor into how you approach the show?
Well, it comes around every 3 years, and it's so exciting. And I think going into the WBC this year, we knew it was going to be one of the most exciting times for baseball because it's basically this microcosm of culture wrapped around in the sport of baseball. And so if you've never been to the Dominican Republic or if you've never been to Japan, you get a slice of what that culture is like in the video game.
When we're talking about culture, we're talking about people's cultures. We're not talking about their baseball culture of that nation.
Mm-hmm. So you get all of that with World Baseball Classic, and it's up to us to try to replicate that in-game. So you can watch the World Baseball Classic, see everybody compete, and if you have the time, you come to MLB The Show and you can do the same thing.
Yeah, the sport's getting more and more international. I think we had 26% of our roster this year are international players in MLB. And, you know, the WBC has just been growing and growing for the last couple times we've put it on. We had huge engagement this year. Really excited to see that. Our last World Series obviously had really great international engagement. So I think for us to see that opportunity for fans to connect not just with their MLB teams and their kind of you know, more domestic fandoms, but to extend their fandoms into the kind of regional cultural paradigm that WBC unlocks has been super exciting for us as a league. I think a lot of fun for our partners, and it looks like the fans have really loved it. So we're just continuing to grow that opportunity. You know, our guys just got back from Mexico, some great games between the Padres and Diamondbacks there, and really looking to lean in on some of the international opportunity as we've done in the past, and continue to look towards the future.
Yeah, but when it comes to international, you know, how do you get international audiences into the show? You know, some of the, you know, Japan may not be so hard. It's kind of console culture for, you know, as long as consoles have been around. But what about when you're going to somewhere else, like say Korea, where, you know, it's the PCs where everything is at?
It goes back to what makes video games a important participatory medium. They're fun. And so if we can make it fun, and if you're playing, maybe you tell your friend who isn't interested in baseball and isn't interested in a video game, hey, why don't you come with me and play this part of the game, because it will also be fun. So it always goes back to how do you make something fun and engaging for your audience.
Yeah, but when it comes to looking at how that international audience fits into what Sony does, have you found that, you know, storylines, for example, does that resonate with the international audience?
Yes, 100%. What we have learned, and Bob Kendrick tells us all the time, is this project has not only changed the museum, but it's also introduced these stories to a much wider audience. And so we thought, well, we have this video game, everybody loves to have fun, but how can we educate, enlighten, and inspire? And Storylines Presents the Negro Leagues gave us a really wonderful way to be able to do that. And luckily, we made a really great mode that people resonated with to help tell really impactful stories in baseball. Because as we all know, you know, baseball has a very, very rich history.
And Peter, what does MLB see when it comes to how international audiences are interacting with baseball games?
Yeah, I mean, you know, like I said, we're really excited about the opportunity right now. I mean, going back to what Ramone was saying, we did a panel with Bob Kendrick, who's the president of the Negro League Baseball Museum, a couple years back at the All-Star Game, and from what you guys have been doing in the show, he was just a celebrity at the event. We had so many kids coming up, shaking his hand, wanting to get a picture. But anyway, just a really powerful, visceral moment of how impactful that mode has been for a lot of players. On the international side, I mean, like I said, a lot of the events and programming I think we've been doing lately have really engaged well, but a lot of it's going to be led by the guys on the field. You know, people talk about the Ohtani effect, and it's from the inside. Guys, it's real. It's happening. He's just such a powerhouse, and you know, he's single-handedly, I think, been such a powerful, transformative force for the sport internationally. And we're so excited, you know, again, seeing how good the guys are on the field in World Baseball Classic, and how those players will continue to percolate into the league. It creates a really personal connection point, I think, for a lot of our fans as we bring more and more of those players into the league, and then let them have a chance to play them out in their favorite video game.
Now, you know, culture is more than just, you know, the people you grew up in or the sports culture that came up in. You know, we all have our own personal cultures as well. And how did the way you interact with games when you were a kid, when you were a teenager, when you were a young adult factor into how you approach the industry today?
Well, I think every year, because we are a yearly title, what we always try to do is keep the main thing, and it's that video games are meant to be fun. So how do we continue to try to provide content and new features and changes that our fans will see as fun? And can those things that we're doing that are fun, can it help grow the game? Because one of our main goals is to grow the game of baseball by any means necessary. Kids are digital, they're on the controllers.
Isn't growing the game also about teaching the game?
Oh, 1,000%, 1,000%. It started out kind of difficult because when we first talked about what if we told stories in a video game, the first thing people said was, well, it's a video game. I have a controller in my hand. I don't want to watch a documentary. And so we said, well, what if we made it short? What if we made it interactive? What if we made it engaging? And what if we found a cultural lens that would make it resonate with anyone? And we were really lucky to do that with Storylines.
Yeah, and you know, we're going to take a look here at a video real quickly about storylines.
Baseball, the soundtrack of America. Yet some of its greatest songs and some of its greatest legends were nearly silenced. So they created their own song instead, with their own teams, on their own stages, and with powerful instruments, showcased a symphony of greatness. Tempo, power, style. Pitchers who threw so fast, you'd swear you could hear the seams sing. Hitters whose thunderous percussions made baseballs disappear into the night sky. Players who were pitch perfect. They played for pride, for a tomorrow not promised. In perfect rhythm, for the love of the game. And though the box scores fade, their legacies will not. Their song is one of history, of perseverance, of courage. These are the legends. These are their stories. This is the Negro Leagues.
And for those of you who don't recognize the voice, that is the great Bob Kendrick. He's the president of the Negro Leagues Museum and one of America's greatest storytellers, in my opinion. You two are just very fortunate to get to work with him the way you do, telling the story of the Negro Leagues. You talk about the song of the Negro Leagues, and that's really interesting that Bob mentioned that there, because the American Jazz Museum is right in the same building with the Negro Leagues Museum. How much does music factor into the story you're telling?
It's huge. I think all content and basically everything we do boils down to a feeling. What you like to eat, the clothes you wear, the music you listen to, the movies you like, how does it make you feel? And so what we wanted to do with storylines is, what is the feeling that we want to invoke? And the feeling that we were going for is educate, enlighten, and inspire. And music was a major piece to make this relevant for a younger audience. Because when you're creating content, you need three things. It's like the gumbo trinity. You need content that's authentic, it needs to make you feel something, and you need relevancy. If you miss one of those things, you're not going to be able to accomplish the goal.
So is relevancy the celery?
Yes, relevancy would be the celery. Content would be the onions. And so it was really important for us to make you feel something, because if we make you feel something, you're going to remember it and you're going to engage with it. Because there's a famous quote, people may not remember what you did, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. So when you played storylines, we wanted to make you feel something, and on the side, while you're not even paying attention, we're also giving you this amazing education of this real thing that happened that most people don't know about.
So let's dial back here about 4 years when you were first introducing storylines. This was something that no other sports game had ever done, and very few video games had included history vignettes at the time on this scale. Mm-hmm. How hard was it to get Sony to buy into that? Or was this one of those pitches where they said, that makes sense?
It wasn't difficult to get buy-in. It was more, hey, if y'all do this, you better do it the right way, because you can mess this up. And that was the same thing we heard from our partners at Major League Baseball. And so when we first started brainstorming, we leaned on the authenticity. Right, and that authenticity comes from Bob Kendrick. There are no baseball historians on our development team. There are no Negro League historians on our baseball team. So we leaned on Bob to be the expert to bring that authenticity. And so what we needed to do as a development team and as a partner with Major League Baseball is, how do we make this relevant for a younger audience that's mostly digital playing on a participatory medium? And so we said, we'll give you short videos, we'll throw in art, we'll throw in motion graphics, and we'll try to figure out a killer soundtrack to keep you engaged as we teach you these amazing stories about things most people don't know.
Now, people will look at this and say, well, what's the business case for something like this? What is the business case for telling these kind of stories?
It's important. Baseball has a rich history, and we need to look at that rich history. If we have Shohei Ohtani in the game and you can play as Shohei Ohtani, then you also need to be able to play as a Mamie Peanut Johnson or a Satchel Paige, because they are just as important. And a lot of these players are in the National Baseball Hall of Fame, so they deserve to have their stories told as well.
And when you're telling these stories and you're selecting people, do you lean on Bob, or do you say, here's a figure I've discovered, let's include them in season 3?
It's a mix. Bob gives us a list, and then as a team internally, we'll talk, make sure we don't have too many pitchers or we don't have too many position players. We normally start with who's in the National Baseball Hall of Fame, and we go from there and make those decisions.
Yeah, and what role does MLB have when it comes to helping decide who goes in?
Yeah, I think when you look at storylines in general, I think that's something we're really proud of as a partnership on. As Ramone says, that's come up in the last few years here, and I think we were always really excited about it, but didn't quite understand what the vision was, how kind of compelling and personally moving it would be, and obviously what they've done in the execution has just been phenomenal. And one of the great treats about working with San Diego Studios is they're so passionate about the material. Those are, of today's game, of the game of the past. These guys are fans, they're scholars, they're students of the game, and being able to work so closely with the studio like we do to tell stories not just of yesteryear, but also to tell today's stories. To be able, we have a really close working relationship. We're on multiple conversations every week. So it's not just connecting the dots and making sure that Ramone and his team are able to get access to the kind of historical assets to allow them to do things like rebuild Rickwood Stadium. We were sharing our schematics of the rebuild we were doing while that was going up.
Which was quite extensive.
It was, pretty much a total rebuild, right? So
one of my colleagues at Sports Business Journal, his father and his grandfather used to work at the stadium.
Yeah.
And he just couldn't believe how much work had been done on it.
It's a beautiful ballpark, but I think things like that, or when we're telling kind of stories from today, like with World Baseball Classic, like with Field of Dreams coming up, like with the All-Star Game each year, like how do we connect some of the things that are happening on the field today with the game, as well as things that are happening in the past. And I think for all of our users to come in the front door, maybe because they're excited about Aaron Judge or Shohei Ohtani, and then get in there and we're learning about some of these phenomenal players from the Negro Leagues, from past history, from kind of the legacy of baseball is just such a great opportunity, and it's a real privilege to get to participate on.
What's really interesting is now in season 4 storylines, kind of a reflection right now happening in baseball. You've had a woman in storylines. We have the professional women's baseball league debuting this year. Black participation is up in baseball in high school and the college level for the first time in several years. And there's more black baseball players in the majors this year than there has been in several years. Are we seeing a payoff here with the way storylines helps tell these stories, or is there some trend going on that goes beyond that?
I think that payoff is a lot to do with Major League Baseball's major investment in getting more youth participation. And we try to mirror that, because if baseball grows, it's good for everybody. And so it just so happens that we were able to tell these crazy, incredible stories to let people know. You didn't know in 1920 and 1930, the third largest black business was the Negro Leagues. You didn't know that they sold out every game. Most people didn't know that night baseball pioneered in the Negro Leagues. The batting helmet, that was pioneered in the Negro Leagues. Shin guards pioneered in the Negro Leagues. So by looking back and reflecting on that history, we're able to re-engage and get young fans, especially diverse fans, engaged in why this game is so great. So hopefully they'll play it with the controller in their hand, and maybe they'll go see a game.
What besides learning all that stuff about the gear and the history, who stands out amongst, I had no idea about their story as you've gone down this journey with storylines?
Everybody. As
you gotta pick one.
Three women. Mamie Peanut Johnson was the first professional pitcher in Major League Baseball, and she tried out for the all-women's team, but they didn't allow black players. So she tried out for the Negro Leagues team, and she made it. You have a Martin DeHigo who played every position, who was Shohei Ohtani before Shohei Ohtani. So every single player is impactful and important, and we just try to tell the stories as accurately and in a fun and engaging way as we can.
And when it comes to telling those stories, are you worried you're going to run out?
No, because there's a lot of work left to be done. So no, not yet.
Yeah.
And what more can you do with storylines? Where does it go from here? Does it always stay about the Negro Leagues, or does it start telling some of the other stories of women and people of color in baseball?
It will eventually, we'll start talking about current players, because the advantage and one of the awesome things there is we can talk to an Aaron Judge, we can talk to a Shohei Ohtani. When we create storylines, 99% of those players are deceased, so we have to rely on archival footage, photos, if we even have photos. But going and talking about new players or up-and-comers or players in college, that's probably the new frontier for storylines.
Yeah, I think you saw with like the Derek Jeter content from a couple of years ago, that was kind of a more modern storyline. But I think for a lot of our younger players who know Jeter as the captain, as this icon, but maybe don't know everything that happened before and how he got there and how he fought for that role. I'm not fighting in the same way as some of our players in the Negro Leagues, obviously, but on the field and in training, really educating a lot of our fans about some of today and yesterday's great players. There's a lot of great storytelling to be done.
For the World Baseball Classic, you added a lot of stuff, but one of the things I loved is the Tokyo Dome, because that is one of the most distinctive ballparks in the world. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's nothing like it here in America. How did you go about bringing that around?
Our partnership with Major League Baseball, they sent us schematics as soon as we could. Whenever we had questions, they were so helpful. One of the great things about making a sports game is you know what it needs to look like, but that's also the gift and the curse, because when it's wrong, people notice it immediately. So it's really important that we be very intentional to make sure we're authentic with everything that we do, and that stadium was a good example of it.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you have these guys who are building ballparks or assets in the game that haven't existed yet. So we have the designs of the things that we're building, works closely with San Diego, and sometimes those things change midway. So how do we kind of steer that to getting that really visceral, live in the moment authenticity and accuracy? I don't know, but these guys keep doing it, so we'll take it.
What was from each of you? What was one of the lessons you learned from this year's World Baseball Classic?
I think some of the stories that were coming out of that were just so terrific. Whether it was the Italian team, obviously the great triumph of the Venezuela team. A lot of these teams are some of our homegrown talent, or our MLB talent, just doing what they do best on field. But then a lot of these teams are guys who are plumbers and electricians and just coming out there and maybe didn't quite make it, but are just these great talents. And just as far as the lesson, I think it's just how much fun there is in some of the stories that come out emergently when you play any sport, when you play this sport. To see some of these great stories and narratives come out and be able to engage and capture the imagination of our fans is just terrific. And I do think it just gets us excited about how we can continue to evolve our sport and communicate that to our fans, whether it's through our on-field presentation, our broadcast presentation, or our games.
Yeah, was Team Atlanta anyone's radar?
Not in the way that they ended up performing. I think people, we knew they would be okay, but I think the energy that they were able to create, not just with their on-field performance, but just everything they were doing with the espresso machine in the clubhouse, in the dugout.
I don't hit home runs, but when I take out exclamation points from copy, I take a shot of espresso now.
I like it.
Yeah. For Sony, what was the great lesson coming out of the World Baseball Classic? Because it's so different than what you're going to learn from as being MLB, because they're putting on this big event that comes on every few years. You're trying to recapture it. Mm-hmm.
Baseball is a global sport, and it continues to grow, and the guys that play it are so passionate. And the World Baseball Classic is just this amazing opportunity for them to bring their culture with them. You know, we saw that with Team Dominican Republic. We saw that with the team from Puerto Rico, even Team USA. Everybody has their own flavor. And so what it really taught us was baseball is not slowing down. And as long as we continue to lean into that, we can continue to grow the sport and get more young fans interested in it.
What are you learning about how younger players engage with World Baseball Classic in the show? Are more of them playing it?
Oh, yes. World Baseball Classic for the last 2 years has been a major, major blip for the franchise, and we can't wait to be able to do it again in 3 years.
And are you finding that is it resonating with the under 18 crowd or the 18 to 25s?
Everyone. We've seen this now, 2 back-to-back World Baseball Classics. Everybody really engages with the content, and that's a testament to the Diamond Dynasty team back at home for creating really interesting ways to really play up that tournament, because it's so short and it's such a big moment in baseball. So it's really up to the content team, and they've done an incredible job.
So baseball the last few years, we've had the pitch clock that changes to steals, that changes to the bases. We've had great events like World Baseball Classic, and then the automatic ball strike system. How much do all of that mix to bring in younger players?
I mean, you know, we've put a huge amount of focus on pace of play in the league, as you well know, and the game, you know, our average game time now I think is down below 2 hours and 40 minutes, which is I think the shortest it's been.
But it is creeping up a little bit with ABS. Are you worried about that?
I think the fans are willing to make that sacrifice, you know, depending on which side of the plate you're on. I think we think on balance it's been a great addition, you know, and we're seeing really good responses with the way people are engaging with the sport as viewers. And you know, it's exciting to see how some of these things get translated into the game and impact our digital players.
So about ABS, I got a point for you.
Okay.
Why does, when I'm pitching, every time they challenge, they're correct?
I have no idea. Hopefully it's not something that you're doing specifically or the game's out to get you, but I have no idea.
But being serious to that question, how has Sony balanced that in making sure that ABS isn't something that leaves a sour taste in players' fate?
Well, it goes back maybe 10 years ago where we decided to have umpires with real personalities, because in real life, some umpires have a taller zone, some umpires have a not as wide zone. And so because we already had
some have zones that get wide and get wider, smaller during the game.
And so because we tried to add in this human element, when we added ABS, it just worked because the umpires already have personalities and they're going to miss calls. And so now we're giving the power into the player's hands to be able to challenge the call, which is the same thing that happens in real life. And so it's just about being authentic.
Now, do the umpires in real life are adjusting their zones already? Is that being reflected in the game yet?
Yes, we actually have an update that's going out soon to reflect that.
Wow. That just really surprises me. You know, getting back to ABS, are you surprised how quickly umpires are adjusting to it, Peter?
I don't know if I'm surprised. I think maybe the level of impact is again a little personally surprising. How much it does change some of the ways that the pitchers are choosing their pitches and what point in the games and how, to your point, the umpires are adjusting. So, I think with all of these things, the great thing about our sport is with minor league baseball, with the Atlantic League, the scale that the sport's being played at, we have an opportunity to test a lot of these things. So we really do have quite a lot of insight. And in a baseball season, there's a lot of pitches, there's a lot of games. So we really do have quite a lot of data on how these things are going to play out in the field. You know, whether it's the the adjustment of base sizes, the movement of second base, the pitch clock, ABS. I mean, there are certainly some surprises about the emergent behavior, but generally, I think that lines up, and I think ironically, it aligns with the video game ecosystem where when you're putting in a feature or releasing a new product, you mostly have some signal on where it's going to go. but it's that emergent behavior and that kind of the chaos factor of the fans, which makes it so fun to take these things to market and get them
And,
live.
real quick here, looking at the future, we had a big announcement today.
Yeah, we announced MLB Mobile sign-ups are there, and so it goes again back. We want to be everywhere that baseball is, and MLB Mobile is another opportunity for people to play, to really get involved and engage with their favorite pastime.
Well, I know I'm going to really appreciate being able to play while I'm waiting to pick up my kids from lacrosse practice. Thank you, Ramone and Peter. Thank you for a great conversation today.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thank you
Jason.
so much.
Thanks, man. Thank you, folks.